Greetings. We have proceeded from where we ended to graphs of tangents. Graphs of tangent. So tangent is abbreviated as tan. I believe we all know this. Tangent is abbreviated as tan. And what you need to know about graphs of tangents is that graphs of tangent have the periods of 180. Graphs of tangents have the periods of 180, meaning the period does not exceed 180. It can be less than or equal to 180, but not more than 180. And this means that for all values of x tan x plus nx is equal to tan x. Okay, so this means that for all values of x tan open brackets x plus nx is equals to tan x, where this n is an integer. I hope this is not disturbing. Okay, and the period for graphs of tan is given by the formula. Period is equal to, so let's just write this. Period is equal to 180 over b, 180 over b, where this b is the frequency. Yeah, I believe we know this because we have been doing these things for a while, and I believe we know. Okay, so I've talked of two important things. I've said that the graph of tangent ends at 180. It can be less than 180, but it cannot exceed 180 degrees, and it's given by the formula 180 over b, where b is the frequency. Okay, so let's do one or two questions so that we understand what we are talking about, because action speaks louder than words. Okay, so we have okay, so first, before we proceed, let me talk of another important things that you need to know about the graph of tangent. So note that maybe we have a function like this. So take note of this. Note f of x is equal to a tan open brackets bx plus or minus c open brackets b. Okay, so where this c is the angle, c is just the angle. So with this function, it's going to have an asymptote at where theta is 90 or 180 degrees n. Okay, so this is what you also need to know. But don't worry about this. I know maybe some of us haven't understood what this means, but as we do some question, you're going to understand what this simplifies. Okay, what this means. Okay, but you should take note of this because you're going to understand it soon. Okay, so let's now do one or two questions so that we now understand what we just from talking about. So we have activity 1. So we are concluding trigonometry. We're almost done with the trigonometry in additional mathematics. Okay, we're almost done with it. So activity, we have there are 3 questions. In the first question, we have been asked to graph the graph of y is equal to tan theta, and b y is equal to 2 tan theta plus 1. Okay, so we have this question, or we have these two questions as our activities or as our example. Okay, so the first one says y is equals to tan theta, and we have been told to graph this. We have been taught to graph this. So how can you go about it? So let's see how we can answer this kind of question. So we have our solution down here as usual. Solution. So we have this function which is a. So this is our a. We have y is equal to tan theta. Y is equals to tan theta. So as usual, you start by finding your amplitude, phase shift, counter value, and period. Also the frequency. So earlier I said that the amplitude, it's represented by the letter A, it's represented by letter A, and we get the coefficient of the trig ratio as our amplitude. So if you see here, we have y is equals to tan theta. So since there is nothing here, this simplifies that there is 1 here. So amplitude is going to be 1. Amplitude is equals to 1. After finding your amplitude, you also finding what we call the frequency, which is represented by letter B. So to find the frequency, you just get the number which is in between the theta and the trig ratio. The number which is in between the theta and the trig ratio. So if you see here, there is nothing in between here. So this means that there is 1. So our frequency we have, our frequency will be 1, and this means that our graph we only have one cycle. So because frequency represents the number of the cycle the graph gonna have. Okay, so after finding this, you also find the period, which is given by the formula 180 over b. So remember, this is tan. If we're dealing with tan graph, your period should be given or must be given by the formula 180 over b. Don't put 360. We use 360 when we're dealing with cosine and sine. When you're dealing with cos and sine, that's when we use 360. Again, you cannot use 180 when you're dealing with cosine and sine. 180 is only used on tangents. Okay, so I believe this is this has gotten, or you have gotten what I've said. So this will take us to this 180 over our period, which is 1. So we're going to have 180 divide 1, and period will be 180. Okay, so after finding this, you now find the phase shift. The phase shift, which is given by the formula C over B, where this C is the angle, where this C is the angle and B is the frequency. So make sure that you follow attentively. Make sure that you follow attentively. So phase shift is equal to, so if you see here on our question or the function, we don't have the angle. So this simplifies that the angle is 0. So C, which represents the angle, will be replaced with 0 because there is no angle, over B, which is 1, our frequency is 1, and this will give us 0. So this means that our graph will start on 0. The starting point of the graph is 0. So the last thing that you need to find, it's what we call the counter value. The counter value is just the difference between the second point and the first point, or the third point and the fourth point. Okay, so first, or counter value, it's given by the formula 1 over 4 of period, quarter of period, and this will take us to this 1 over 4 multiplied by our period, which we found to be 180. This is our period, which we find to be 180. Okay, so counter value is equal to 180. 1 over 4 multiplied by 180. This just means 180 divided 4, which will give us 45. So 45. So we found the phase shift, the counter value, and many many more. Okay, so after finding this, you just now draw your trig table. You draw your trig table. Okay, so you draw your trig table down there. So we know that the trig table is drawn like this. It's drawn in this way. So you have the line here. Okay, and this line is divided by another line. Okay, so this is just a rough redrawing. So this side we have the x values, and the x values is same as the theta. So this side we're going to have. So first of all, let's just rewrite the function. So the function was y is equals to tan theta. So this side we're going to have theta. In this side we have the function which is tan theta. Okay, so we said that according to the phase shift, which is 0, the phase shift we found it to be 0. So our graph will start on 0 according to the phase shift. So we're going to have 0 here. After 0, to find the next value for theta, we just do phase shift plus counter value. So our counter value is 45. So we're going to do 0 plus 45, and this will give you 45. Okay, this will give you 45. To find another point after 45, just do 45 plus the counter value. After this, we'll be just adding the counter value. Counter value. The point plus the counter value. Again, that's point plus the counter value until tufike pali 180. Remember that standard the phase or the period of tangent does not exceed 180. Does not exceed 180. So 45, to find another point, I said you just add the counter value. 45 plus 45, this will give you 90. Okay, this will give you 90. 90 plus 45, it will give you 135. 135 plus 45, so we'll be just adding the counter value until we reach 180. So 135 plus 45, it will give you 180. So we cannot proceed from here because the period for what's this? For tangent is less than or equal to 180, is less than or equal to 180. So this means that the graph cannot exceed 180. It always be less than or equal to 180. So having done this, you now come to this side where you find the value of this. What's the value of tan theta? What's the value of tan theta? So worry not, we have found the value of the theta. So this means that to find the point that is here, we'll just replace by the value of the theta, which we have found to be 0 on the first point. So I'm going to have tan 0. So tan 0, when you place on a calculator, tan 0 will give you 0. This will give you 0. So after this, you now proceed to the second point, which is 45. So this means that where there's tan, we're going to put 45. So we're going to have tan 45. So this is a special angle. No need of you pressing on a calculator, you know. But if you don't know, you can press on your calculator. So tan 45, it's 1. We proceed to another point. So this means that where there's theta, we're going to put 90. So we're going to have tan 90. Tan 90 will give you undefined. So this is undefined. Okay, so we have reached where we talked of the asymptote. If you remember where I've come from, we talked of the asymptote line. So tan 90, this will give you math error, and this means that this is undefined. It's undefined. Okay, undefined. After this, you proceed to another point, which is 135. So where there's tan here, we're going to put 135. So it will be tan 135, and this will give us -1. The last point is 180. So this means that where there's theta, we're going to put 180. Isn't it? Theta is here, so we're just going to put 180 on this, and it will be tan theta or tan 180, and it will give you 0. Tan 180, it's 0. Then you just graph, you start graphing. Okay, so the graph will be just down here. We just draw it here. So as usual, you just draw the way we used to draw. Okay, don't laugh at the line. Okay, so let's just cut it here so that we don't mix that trig table and the graph of ours. Okay, so this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. Okay, so we have the amplitude. You said that it's 1, so 1 will be our amplitude here, and here we're going to have -1, 0 there, 0 there. Then we just get the point here. So we have 45. So I said that these are the x coordinates. So we have 45. After 45, we have 90. Then we have 135, and the last one it's 180. So for tangent graphs, before you start graphing, you need to draw the asymptote line. Where it is undefined, you draw the asymptote line. So the asymptote line are just the dotted line. So where was our tan undefined? It's on 90. So you're going to have some graphs where you're going to have about maybe 3 undefined values. So you draw the asymptotes on those undefined values. So on 90 it's undefined, so we're going to draw the asymptote, and it will be like this. So just draw. So just draw a dotted line. That's the asymptote. You just draw a dotted line. You draw a dotted line, and this is a dotted line that's I've drawn. So if you have another point which is undefined, you also do the same. You draw a dotted line on the same undefined value of x. Then you start graphing. You have 0, 0. Where is 0, 0? So 0, 0, it's just where the x-axis and the y-axis meet. So we're going to have 0, 0 here. Okay, 0, 0 here. After 0, 0, we have 45, 1. 45, 1, it's here. Okay, so after 45, 1, there is 135, 135, -1, 135, -1, which is somewhere here. Then 180, 0. So if you see, we have 2 points in this side of the asymptote. We also have 2 points this side of the asymptote. So we're going to meet this. We just draw a line which will meet this, and we move toward the asymptote. But this line shouldn't meet the asymptote. We just move toward it. Okay, but it shouldn't meet the asymptote. Okay, this line in the asymptote does not meet. So make sure that it just move toward panonofe, but such that there is like a space here. They won't meet. Okay, they will go until undefined. They won't meet until infinity. Sorry, until to infinity. So just draw a line which will be very close and moving toward the asymptote, but shouldn't meet the asymptote. So having done that, you even now come to this side where it is so this side we have 2 points. We have 180, 0 and 135, -1. We also do the same and it should our graph should like move toward the asymptote, but shouldn't meet the asymptote. It should move towards the asymptote, but it shouldn't meet the asymptote. Okay, like this, it shouldn't meet the asymptote. Okay, so this is how you can draw the graphs of tangents. This is how can you graph the graphs of tangents. So make sure that you pass through these things, because if you don't pass through these things, you're going to have difficulties as we go on, because this is the foundation. Okay, so let's do another question. Let's quickly do another question so that we get to know more about these things. So I expect you to answer any question on the trig, whether identities, double angles, half angles, compound angles, any question on the identity. I expect you to get it correct. Oh, not on identity, on trigonometry, because identity falls under trigonometry. So we have another question, which is, so this we have gotten is correct, which is y is equals to 2 tan theta plus 1, y is equals to 2 tan theta plus 1. So this plus 1. So our solutions begins from here. Solutions. Okay. So as usual, you find your amplitude, frequency, phase shift, etc. Okay. So the amplitude, I won't repeat. The amplitude, we just said you just get it. You know where the amplitude from here, the number of the coefficient of the trig. So in this case, it's 2, and the period, before we find the period, we find the frequency, which is b. So the frequency is the number between the theta and the trig ratio. So in this case, it's 1. I guess you know where 1 has come from, because here there's no number. This means that there is a 1. Okay, so now you find your period, which is given by the formula. P is equals to 180 over frequency. So our frequency, it's 1. So where there is frequency, we're going to put 1, and this will give us our period to be 180 degrees. So this means that our graph will end at 180. At 180. Then you found your phase shift, which is the starting point of the graph, and it's given by the formula C over B, where C, it's the angle, but in this case, we don't have the angle. We don't have the angle. So the phase shift will be 0. The phase shift will be 0. So after this, the last thing that you need to find is the counter value. And we say that the counter value is given by the formula 1 over 4 multiplied by period. So our period is 180. So we're going to do 1 over 4 multiplied by 180, and this will give us 45. So then you now draw your trig table. So I'm going to have the trig table. Okay, trig table. So in case you have your sibling who is doing Form 1 or Form 2, we also do lessons for Form 1 and Form 2. We have started. You can see the materials for this is chemistry for Form 1. So in case of you having a sibling, you can connect him or her to us. Okay, so a trig table, you draw. So we have something like this as usual. Okay, like a cross. This side you have the theta. Okay, so in case of where there is x, this side you are going to have the x, and this side you have the function, which is 2 tan theta plus 1. 2 tan theta plus 1. 2 tan theta plus 1. So we said that the phase shift is 0, so our graph will start on 0. After 0, we just add the 45 to find another point. So 45. Then we also add the 45 so that we find another point. We just be adding the phase or the counter values. So 45 plus 45, this will give us 90, okay, and 90 plus 45, it will give us 135. Then 135 plus 45, this will give us 180. So we know we are not exceeding 180. Okay, then you start replacing where there's theta with these values that you have found this side. Okay, so I have 2 tan theta plus 1, 2 tan theta plus 1. So this will give us 2 tan. So remember where there's theta, we have found that it's 0, so we put 0 plus 1. 2 tan theta, 2 tan 0 plus 1, this will give us 1, because 2 tan 0 to give you 0 plus 1 this side, and this will give us 1. Okay, this will give us 1. Then we proceed to another point, which is 45. So we're going to have 2 tan 45 plus 1. So tan 45, you know that this is 1. Tan 45, it will be 1, so it will be 2 multiplied by 1. So this will give us 2 plus 1. So in case you don't know, you can place on your calculator. So we're going to have 3 here. We are going to have 3. Then you place 2 tan 90 plus 1. So 2 tan 90 plus 1, this will give you undefined. So this means that this is undefined, where the asymptote line will be. So this will give you undefined. Then you proceed to 135. So it will be 2 tan 135. 2 tan, where there's theta, you put 135 plus 1. 2 tan 135 plus 1. This will give you negative 1. Negative 1. And another one, it's 180. So we're going to have 2 tan 180 plus 1. This will give you 1. This will give you 1. Then you just draw your graph. You just draw your graph. Okay, so we can draw our graph from here. Sorry for drawing okay. So because of this, we can draw from here. Okay. I hope you can see from here. Okay. So we have 0 here. The highest point is 3 according to this. So we can have 3 on top there. 3 on top, 3 on top, then there's 1. We also have negative 1 down here. Okay, then we have the x values, which are 45, 90, 135, 180. So 45, it's a 1 close to 0. 45, 90, 135, and 180, which is the last point. Okay, so you can now start. First of all, before you start, remember the asymptote. So you draw the asymptote where it is undefined, and it is undefined here. So we're going to have our asymptote on 90. Okay, so if it's on 135, you draw the asymptote on 135. So this doesn't mean that your graph it's going to have one asymptote line only. No, sometimes it even goes up to 4 asymptote lines. 4 asymptote lines. So we have 0, 1. So 0, 1, this is here. 0, 1, it's here. Then we have 45, 3, which is here. Okay, 45, 3. And the other points are this side of the asymptote. So we just draw a line passing through this point, and it should be move towards the asymptote, but it shouldn't meet the asymptote. So it should move toward the asymptote like that, but it shouldn't meet the asymptote. After this, we have 135, negative 1. 135, negative 1, it's somewhere here. Somewhere here. Then the last one, it's 180, 1. 180, 1. So 180, 1, it's here. Then you just draw the line which should move toward the asymptote but shouldn't meet the asymptote. Okay, so this is the graph of 2 tan theta plus 1, and I hope you have learned how to graph these graphs. Okay, so make sure that where you haven't understood, you have feel free to come in my inbox and request for more explanation. Okay, so if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, kindly do, and don't forget to like. Have a blessed night.